Out! Her shriek cut through the champagne chatter. Patricia, Daniel's mother, pointed a bony finger, and all eyes snapped to me. Gold digger, they whispered. They think I'm just a waitress snaring their precious boy. Fools. A tiny smile flickered as they ushered me towards the exit, security guards flanking me like I was some common thief. Daniel just stood there, face crumpled. He couldn't even meet my gaze. Weak, pathetic. But they don't know about Ryan, my brother. He always said, kindness is a weapon. And mine? They're about to find out how sharp it can be. Just wait till his jet lands. They'll choke on their caviar. If you've ever been underestimated because of how you look or where you come from, this story will give you chills. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because you won't believe what happens when the truth finally comes out. Let's dive in. My name is Julia, and this is the story of how my own wedding day became both the worst and best day of my life. You see, I've always been what people call a simple woman. I work at Martha's Diner in our small town, serving coffee and pie to truckers and locals. I live in a tiny apartment above the flower shop, and my idea of a fancy night out is pizza and a movie at home. I've never cared much about designer clothes or expensive jewelry. I find beauty in simple things. A sunset, a good book, the smell of fresh coffee in the morning. When I met Daniel at the diner 6 months ago, I never imagined he came from money. He was just this sweet guy who ordered black coffee and always left generous tips. He'd sit in my section for hours working on his laptop, and we'd chat during my breaks. He told me he worked in marketing. Nothing fancy. His clothes were nice, but not flashy. His car was a regular sedan. Everything about him seemed normal, real. That's what I loved about him. We fell in love the old-fashioned way. Long conversations, walks in the park, sharing dreams under the stars. Daniel never made me feel like I needed to be anyone other than myself. When he proposed 3 months later with a simple ring, I said yes because I knew we had something special, something money couldn't buy. The first red flag came when I met his family. Daniel had been putting off introducing me for weeks, always making excuses. When we finally had dinner at their house, I understood why. The moment I walked into their mansion, and yes, it was literally a mansion, I felt like I'd stepped into a different world. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, artwork that probably costs more than I make in a year. His mother, Patricia, greeted me with the kind of smile that doesn't reach your eyes. She looked me up and down, taking in my simple blue dress from the local department store, my modest jewelry, my worn but clean shoes. I could practically hear her thoughts. This is what my son chose. During dinner, every question felt like a test I was failing. What do your parents do, dear? When I explained my father was a mechanic and my mother worked at the post office, Patricia's smile got tighter. How quaint. When she asked about my education and I mentioned community college, I watched her exchange a look with Daniel's father, William. They weren't mean exactly, but I felt like a bug under a microscope. Daniel tried to include me in conversations, but his family had this way of talking about places I'd never been, people I'd never heard of, experiences that might as well have been from another planet. I spent most of the evening nodding and smiling, feeling smaller and smaller with each passing minute. After that dinner, things changed. Patricia would call Daniel constantly, suggesting he bring someone more suitable to family events. His sister Amanda would post pictures of Daniel with other women from their social circle, always tagging him with comments like, "Remember when we had so much fun together?" I wasn't paranoid. They were trying to break us up. But Daniel seemed oblivious. Or maybe he just didn't want to see it. He'd brush off my concerns, saying his family just needed time to get to know me. He truly believed love would conquer all. I admired his optimism, even as it broke my heart. When we decided to have a simple wedding, I thought maybe things would get better. We chose a small venue in my hometown. Nothing too fancy, but beautiful in its own way. I bought my dress from a local boutique. White, elegant, but certainly not designer. I was happy with it. I felt beautiful in it. That should have been enough. The wedding ceremony itself was perfect. Daniel looked at me like I was the most precious thing in the world. We wrote our own vows, promising to love each other exactly as we were. For those 30 minutes, I forgot all about his family's disapproval. It was just him and me and our love. But the reception, that's where everything fell apart. I should have known something was wrong when Patricia pulled Daniel aside the moment we arrived. She was whispering urgently in his ear, gesturing toward me. When she looked at me, there was something different in her eyes. Not just disapproval anymore, something harder, meaner. The first hour passed normally enough. We had our first dance, cut the cake, mingled with guests. But I noticed Patricia watching me constantly like she was waiting for something. Every time I laughed too loud or used the wrong fork or didn't know which glass was for what wine, she'd make a little note in her head. Then came the speeches. William gave a toast that was polite but cold. Amanda's maid of honor speech was full of inside jokes I didn't understand, and memories that didn't include me. But when Patricia stood up, my stomach dropped. "I'd like to say a few words about family," she began, her voice carrying across the silent room. "Family isn't just about blood or marriage certificates. It's about belonging. It's about understanding where you fit in the world." She looked directly at me. "Some people are born into certain circles. They understand the expectations, the responsibilities, the way things are done. Others," she paused, letting the word hang in the air like a threat. "Others try to force their way into places they don't belong." The room was so quiet you could hear my heart pounding. Daniel started to stand up, but his father's hand on his shoulder pushed him back down. "I've tried to be welcoming," Patricia continued, her voice getting stronger. "I've tried to see what my son sees in this arrangement. But watching today, seeing how out of place this young woman looks, how uncomfortable she makes our guests, how little she understands our world, I can't stay silent anymore." My face was burning. Every eye in the room was on me. Some guests looked embarrassed for me. Others seemed to be enjoying the drama. But no one was standing up to stop this. Daniel deserves someone who can stand beside him as an equal. Someone who understands that marriage isn't just about feelings. It's about joining families, building legacies, maintaining standards. She turned to address me directly. "I'm sorry, dear, but you're simply not suitable for this family. You never will be." The words hit me like physical blows. I wanted to disappear, to sink through the floor, to wake up from this nightmare. But Patricia wasn't done. "I think it would be best for everyone if you left now. This party is for people who belong here. And frankly, you're making our guests uncomfortable. Your presence is embarrassing." That's when Daniel finally found his voice. "Mother, stop this right now. This is my wife, and this is our wedding." But Patricia had backup. Amanda stood up, nodding in agreement. "Daniel, we love you, but this is painful to watch. She doesn't fit. She never will. Look around. Can't you see how awkward this is?" More family members started speaking up. Daniel's aunt mentioned how I'd used the salad fork for my main course. His cousin pointed out that I didn't know what wine paired with the fish. Uncle George actually laughed when he mentioned my little job at that diner. I felt like I was drowning. These people were picking apart every single thing about me, every mistake I'd made, every sign that I didn't belong in their world. And the worst part, some of it was true. I didn't know their rules. I didn't understand their world. I was just a simple girl from a simple family. Daniel was fighting for me, but he was outnumbered. Even some of his friends seemed to agree with his family. "Maybe they have a point," I heard one of them whisper. "She is pretty different from his usual type." That's when Patricia made her final move. She walked over to where I was sitting, frozen in humiliation, and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm calling security to escort you out. This is a private event, and you're no longer welcome here. I'm sure you understand." I looked at Daniel, hoping he'd put his foot down, hoping he'd choose his wife over his family. But he looked lost, overwhelmed, like a little boy being scolded by his mother. "Julia, maybe we should just go home and talk about this tomorrow." That's when I knew he wasn't going to fight for me. Not really. When it came down to choosing between his family and his wife, I was losing. Security arrived, actual uniformed guards that Patricia must have arranged in advance. This was planned. She'd been waiting for the perfect moment to humiliate me publicly and get rid of me once and for all. "Ma'am, we need you to leave the premises," one guard said, trying to be professional but clearly uncomfortable with the situation. I stood up on shaking legs. My wedding dress, which had made me feel so beautiful just hours earlier, now felt like a costume I had no right to wear. Every eye in that room was watching me get thrown out of my own wedding reception. Patricia handed me my purse like I was a servant being dismissed. I hope you understand this is for the best, dear. You'll find someone more appropriate for your station in life. The walk to the door felt like a mile. My few friends who had been invited tried to come with me, but the security guards blocked them. Just the lady, they said. Even my own guests weren't allowed to leave with me. As I reached the door, I heard Patricia addressing the crowd. Now that we've handled that unpleasantness, let's get back to celebrating. Daniel will thank us for this someday. I found myself standing outside the venue in my wedding dress, completely alone. The sun was setting, and there was a chill in the air. I sat down on the curb, not caring if I ruined my dress. What did it matter now? I called my brother Ryan, the one person who had always understood me, but it went straight to voicemail. He was probably in another meeting on the other side of the world. That was Ryan, always working, always busy with his business empire. We didn't talk often, but when we did, he reminded me that I was stronger than I knew. Sitting there on that curb, I started to wonder if Patricia was right. Maybe I was delusional to think I could fit into Daniel's world. Maybe love wasn't enough. Maybe I was just a naive small-town girl who had gotten in over her head. That's when I heard it, the sound of an aircraft approaching. At first, I thought it might be a helicopter, but as it got closer, I realized it was much bigger. A private jet was circling the area, looking for a place to land. There was a large field next to the venue, and to my amazement, the jet was heading straight for it. I watched in confusion as it touched down smoothly, like this was a perfectly normal place to land a private aircraft. Inside the venue, I could see guests gathering at the windows, pointing and talking excitedly. Patricia was probably assuming one of their wealthy friends had decided to make a dramatic entrance. The jet's engines wound down and stairs lowered from the aircraft. My heart stopped when I saw who stepped out. Ryan, my big brother, emerged from that jet like something out of a movie. Even from a distance, I could see his perfectly tailored suit, the confident way he moved, the small army of assistants and security personnel who followed him. This was Ryan in full CEO mode, the version of my brother that most people saw, the one who had built a tech empire from nothing and was now worth more money than most small countries. But to me, he was just the brother who used to sneak me cookies when mom wasn't looking and taught me to ride a bike. Ryan spotted me immediately, and his expression changed from business mode to big brother protective mode in an instant. He strode across the field with purpose, his team following at a respectful distance. Julia. He knelt down beside me, his voice full of concern. What happened? Why are you sitting out here alone? The dam broke. All the humiliation, all the pain, all the embarrassment came pouring out. I told him everything. Patricia's speech, the family's rejection, being thrown out of my own wedding reception. Ryan's face got darker with every word. They did what? His voice was dangerously quiet. Ryan had always been protective of me, even when we were kids. He'd never tolerated anyone treating his little sister badly. Ryan, maybe they were right, I said through my tears. Maybe I don't belong in Daniel's world. Maybe I am just a simple girl who got in over her head. He took my hands in his the same way he used to when I was scared as a child. Julia, listen to me. You chose to live simply because that's what makes you happy. That doesn't make you less than anyone else. You have an MBA from Harvard, remember? You could run circles around half the people in there intellectually. I had forgotten that Ryan knew me better than anyone. He knew about the trust fund our grandmother had left me. Money I'd never touched because I wanted to make my own way. He knew about my education, my choices, my reasons for living the life I'd chosen. They think they can judge you based on your uniform in your apartment. Ryan's voice was getting that edge it got in board meetings when someone underestimated him. They have no idea who they just messed with. He helped me to my feet and looked toward the venue. Which one is Patricia? Before I could answer, we were interrupted by voices. Daniel had apparently noticed the commotion and was approaching with several family members, including Patricia herself. She was putting on her most charming smile, probably assuming this was someone important she needed to impress. Julia, darling, who is your friend? Patricia asked, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. She was looking Ryan up and down, taking in his expensive suit, his confident bearing, the private jet behind him. "This is my brother Ryan," I said quietly. Patricia's smile got bigger. "How wonderful. We're so sorry about the earlier misunderstanding, dear. Family dynamics can be so complicated, can't they?" She extended her hand to Ryan. "I'm Patricia, Daniel's mother. Welcome to our celebration." Ryan looked at her extended hand for a long moment before slowly shaking it. "Patricia, I've heard so much about you." Daniel stepped forward, trying to salvage the situation. "Sir, I'm Daniel. I'm Julia's husband. I'm so sorry about what happened. It got out of hand, but we can work this out." "Can we?" Ryan's voice was perfectly polite, but there was steel underneath. "From what Julia tells me, your family has some very strong opinions about who belongs where." Patricia laughed nervously. "Oh, you know how emotions can run high at weddings? We're all family now. Perhaps you'd like to join us inside. I'm sure you understand how important family approval is in a marriage." That's when Ryan dropped the first bomb. "Actually, I understand you told my sister she doesn't belong in your family because of her background. Something about her being too simple, too common." He paused, looking around at the gathered family members. "That's interesting because I'm the CEO of Novatech Industries. Perhaps you've heard of it." I watched Patricia's face change as the name registered. Novatech was one of the largest technology companies in the world. Ryan's picture had been on the cover of Forbes, Time, and Fortune magazines. He was worth approximately $8 billion and had been named one of the most influential people under 40. William stepped forward, recognition dawning on his face. "Novat, you're Ryan Chen." "Actually, it's Ryan Morrison," Ryan corrected smoothly. "Chen was my adoptive father's name before I was adopted by the Morrison family. Julia and I are both adopted, which is something we've never hidden. But I suppose in your research into my sister's unsuitable background, you missed that detail." The crowd that had gathered was growing larger. People were pulling out their phones, recognizing Ryan from magazine covers and news articles. Patricia's face had gone completely white. Ryan continued, his voice carrying easily across the group. "You see, Julia and I came from nothing. We were both adopted by a loving family who taught us the value of hard work and staying humble. Julia chose a simple life because she finds fulfillment in serving others, in being part of a community, in living authentically. I chose the business world because I wanted to change how technology serves humanity." He looked directly at Patricia. "But here's what you didn't know when you judged my sister so harshly. Julia has a degree from Harvard Business School, graduated summa cum laude. Actually, she has a trust fund worth approximately $50 million that she's never touched because she wanted to make her own way in life. She could buy and sell half the people in that reception if she wanted to." The silence was deafening. Patricia's mouth was opening and closing like a fish out of water. Amanda had gone pale. Daniel looked like he'd been hit by a truck. "But more importantly," Ryan continued, his voice getting harder, "she has something none of you have. Genuine character. She judges people by their actions, not their bank accounts. She finds joy in simple pleasures and treats everyone with respect regardless of their station in life. Qualities that frankly seem to be in short supply in your family." Patricia tried to recover, forcing out a laugh that sounded more like a croak. "Well, this is wonderful news. We had no idea. Julia, darling, why didn't you tell us about your brother, about your education? We would never have what?" Ryan cut her off, treated her with basic human decency, respected her as your son's choice, given her the benefit of the doubt. He shook his head. "The fact that you're only interested in my sister now that you know she has money and connections tells me everything I need to know about your character." Daniel stepped forward desperately. "Julia, please, let's talk about this. I love you. I'm sorry about what happened, but we can fix this." I looked at my husband of less than 6 hours, and felt something break inside my chest. "Daniel, when your mother was destroying me in front of all those people, where were you?" I tried to stop her. "You tried," I agreed. "But when it came down to choosing between your family's approval and your wife's dignity, which did you choose?" He didn't have an answer for that. Ryan placed a protective hand on my shoulder. "Julia has a choice to make. She can stay here and spend the rest of her marriage trying to prove herself to people who will never accept her, or she can come with me and remember what it feels like to be valued for who she is. Patricia made one last desperate attempt. Now let's not be hasty. This has all been a terrible misunderstanding. Julia, dear, you're welcome in our family. We see now that we misjudged you. Perhaps we could start over. I looked around at all their faces. Patricia with her fake smile, Amanda with her shocked expression, William trying to calculate damage control, and Daniel looking lost and overwhelmed. These people had shown me exactly who they were when they thought I had no power, no connections, no worth beyond what they could see on the surface. You know what's funny? I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. All this time you've been worried about me not being good enough for your family. But standing here now, I realize you're not good enough for me. I turned to Daniel one last time. I loved you because I thought you were different from them. But when it mattered most, when I needed you to stand up for us, for our marriage, for me, you didn't. You let them humiliate me because their approval mattered more to you than my dignity. Julia, please, I'm done. I said simply, I'm done trying to fit into a world that doesn't want me. I'm done making myself smaller so other people feel bigger. And I'm definitely done with people who only respect me when they find out about my money or my brother's success. I looked back at Patricia one more time. You were right about one thing. I don't belong here, but not for the reasons you think. I don't belong here because I have something you'll never have. The ability to love someone exactly as they are without conditions, without judgment, without trying to change them into something more convenient for me. Ryan smiled proudly and offered me his arm. Ready to go home, little sister? As we walked toward the jet, I could hear Patricia behind us, frantically trying to convince Daniel to run after us to fix this somehow. But he didn't come. Even now, even after everything, he was still choosing them over me. The last thing I heard as we reached the aircraft was Patricia's voice, shrill and desperate. Daniel, do something. Do you have any idea what kind of connections she has? What this could mean for our family's reputation? And that said everything, didn't it? Even in her apologies, even in her desperation to fix things, it was still about what I could do for them, not about who I was as a person. As the jet lifted off, I looked down at the venue getting smaller below us. My wedding dress was wrinkled and stained, my makeup was smudged from crying, and my marriage was over before it really began. But for the first time all day, I felt like I could breathe. You okay? Ryan asked, settling into the seat across from me. I thought about it. You know what? I think I am, or I will be. He smiled. That's my little sister, always stronger than she knows. As we flew into the sunset, I realized something important. I wasn't running away from a life I couldn't handle. I was walking toward a life where I would never again let anyone make me feel less than I was, where I would never again shrink myself to fit into someone else's narrow definition of worthiness. Sometimes the best thing you can do is know when to walk away. And sometimes you need a private jet to do it with style. Julia learned that sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do. If this story taught you something about never judging people by their appearance, smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories that will restore your faith in justice. What would you have done in Julia's situation? Let me know in the comments below.